In this video, I'm going to discuss today's storms that are ramping up across the country. From the plains to the northeast, I'm breaking down when you need to be on guard for dangerous and destructive weather. Heavy rains and winds are on the menu today, expected to race across the plains with some gusty winds that could down trees and send debris flying. Not only this, but May is bringing the heat to the eastern US right now, but relief is certainly on the way as we can see well below average temperatures this weekend. Hello everyone, welcome back to the latest update, and well, the plains are in a severe thunderstorm risk once again, plus severe weather is also eyeing the northeast. For the third day in a row now, storms are firing up across the central US. Monday, severe storms raced across the Kansas farmland and blew through portions of Wisconsin and even Texas earlier this week. While the severe threat continues in the central plains today, we also have to keep an eye on the northeast as well, with potentially record-breaking heat is really helping to fuel these thunderstorms in the mid-Atlantic towards the northeast. Really from Albany, New York, even to Burlington, Vermont, you really need to be on alert today for heavy rain, damaging winds, and possibly an even isolated tornado. So here's what's happening today. So right now we're looking at what's taking place on the high-resolution reflectivity radar here west over towards the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, where we're seeing showers and thunderstorms are going to pop up here right in this area, which is pushing east, and as that begins to move towards the northeast, this is when we could see some of those storms begin to move up into the severe variety. This is the area highlighted by the Storm Prediction Center. I think we have a slight risk for a very widespread portion of the northeast here. You can see here that the slight risk is really covering a good portion of the New England area, even the mid-Atlantic as well. Now, what's associated with this risk is very strong wind gusts, hail. Can't even rule out the threat of an isolated tornado either. So what we have set up here is that front that's moving its way through the Great Lakes region. I think you see it's beginning to develop here. Temperatures should also warm up into the 80s and even the 90s as well. Very above average, record-breaking temperatures as you work your way towards the East Coast with plenty of warm and moist air that is around. Warm enough to even break some records. So what we find is that front beginning to slide towards the east, which will also later on encounter that warm, moist air that I just mentioned, which will just be enough to get these thunderstorms developing here. The instability will climb up for us as well as we look here at the surface-based Cape values. As you can see here, in the mid-Atlantic, we really have them spread out through anywhere from 500 to, I'd say, 1,500 here in a lot of these areas. Like the max I'd say is 1,500 joules per kilogram here in these areas, especially across southeastern Pennsylvania, even getting into southern Jersey here. That's where I'm located, so I'm really looking forward to recording these storms today if I do get a chance. Here in Delaware, it's even very strong instability as well into the very high Cape values as well into the thousands. Really averaging out around 1,200. Like I said, all very widespread here across Pennsylvania. Even towards western Pennsylvania, we have them in the upper thousands here, up to 1,600 in some areas. So these storms right now are just now beginning to develop in an area that really isn't too strong in instability here. Doesn't really have a lot of variables that we're going to face here as we move closer to the East Coast. I mean, you can see it's even as you move up into the New England area where these storms are also going to move through, we see them still into the upper 1,000, nearly 2,000 here in upstate New York here, really central upstate New York, nearly reaching 2,000. So like I said, very warm, moist air, very strong instability, very strong Cape values. As this front pushes on through, we're really going to see some severe activity here we're going to develop. So very concerning weather we're facing later on today, this afternoon. Even getting into the evening hours, I'll talk about timing later. So like I said, we have a number of things coming together, including the winds in the lower levels of the atmosphere, which will be coming in into a fashion that's going to support these thunderstorms that could even rotate and potentially bring us some isolated tornadoes and some stronger winds as you work your way into the mid-levels here. Again, these organized storms are really be upping that damaging wind threat. These storms could produce winds that can gust excessively over 60 miles an hour. That's not the only risk we're following here. There's also a chance we can see some hailstones. Again, that isolated tornado risk is there for you. Cannot rule out the heavy downpours either in a few of these locations as well. Now we move on to the timing here when we can expect some of these nasty storms to roll on through. Some of these storms are actually going to pack a bit of a punch here. Not seeing much precipitation at all. I know here in southern Jersey we've seen some partly cloudy skies here over the past few hours now. I'd say it's still mostly cloudy, but we've seen some sunshine and some low cloud coverage periodically, which is really only upping the chance for those severe thunderstorms as it's producing some more unstable air mass. But this is all really going to change as we move on through the day. You can see that messy weather out here to the west, into the Ohio Valley here, really out into the Midwest across portions of Indiana. Of course, we all know the drill here, myself included. You look to the west and we see these thunderstorms approaching our area here from the Ohio Valley. We all know that sooner or later it's going to fill in towards the east and really intensify here in this area along across Pennsylvania and West Virginia here. Yeah, like I said, these storms are really going to be popping up here across the Allegheny plateaus around early afternoon hours. Later on to the mid-afternoon hours, we're going to have some of these storms begin to fill in across Vermont through portions of eastern Pennsylvania as we head into the 4 o'clock hour. DC are also going to have some thunderstorms as well. You'll notice that it's not the widespread, well-developed squall line as it's really more of a series of pop-up storms. It'll really be developing later on this afternoon. These storms will continue to track east as we head into the evening hours as well. Boston, you're going to see some overnight storms as well. Keep in mind that any of these storms could have very strong wind gusts, large hail associated with it, and as I mentioned earlier, we could even see some rotation due to the frequent wind shear, leading to that isolated tornado threat. So across New York and Vermont here, really across the border, here is where we're going to really see an area to watch here. See those severe storms. Blast through during the earlier afternoon hours. Or St. Johnsbury, you can see this. See these storms rolling in around 5 o'clock as you're getting off of work, and then even more rounds of storms rolling in overnight. So as you can see here on the radar, this will not be a one-time deal. Instead, you're gonna have to watch. Instead, you're gonna have to watch out for multiple rounds of storms during the evening hours as well. So again, we take a quick look at the timing here. The timing here in Boston, other places towards the coast here in the Northeast. So we're gonna be quiet for most of the day, even into the late afternoon and early evening hours. This will really be an overnight event here for you guys. But this is actually not the only place that's gonna have to watch out for some of these storms. Let's go back to the Storm Prediction Center outlook here. So now let's go further into detail about this Wednesday threat here, a couple hundred miles south and west from what we were just looking at in the Northeast. Let me just say that this has been a relatively quiet May when it comes to severe standards, but looks like we're really going to see an uptick here in those severe reports starting today, really. Now we've seen some severe activity in this area in the Central Plains over the past few days, but overall the season has been relatively quiet. But today will be one of those active days, and very likely is the word that we're using for the chance of this severe weather later on this afternoon for the Midwest here. As we look into the forward panel here, as you can see here, really in the purple here, around 60%, so very large damaging hail. Even the wind outlook, very damaging winds across the same area that we're facing, although placed a little more east than the moderate risk, where the moderate risk is placed. But collectively, the biggest threats here are going to be the hail, wind, and even tornadoes here. You can see it's around a 15% chance here of tornado. I believe this translates to a torque count of 7, or in a very high range of that scale that the Weather Channel uses. I believe it converts to somewhere around a 7 or 8. So very likely chance of tornadoes in this region of the extreme variety. Possibly an EF2, EF3 would not really surprise me on a day like this. Very more unlikely to get those kind of tornadoes, but even yesterday the tornado risk was nowhere near this high. Yet we still saw a couple EF1s and EF2s spawn across regions across states like Texas. So again, big hail is what we're talking about here, damaging straight line winds and even tornadoes. All these hazards are in play across Nebraska and Kansas especially, and also some areas surrounding that. Now this is a quite sizable risk that we have set up here for today, and right now we're really not seeing much show up on the radar in this area. So I'm zoomed into the future here. We're not really seeing much pop up, but this will not last long. But one thing I am noticing here is the snow out there across portions of the Western Rockies here, even the mountain ranges here in Idaho and Montana, even the foothills here in Montana, seeing a lot of that snow pop up on the radar. Now, what does it tell you when you see snow on the map at the very end of May? It tells you that we got a very dynamic system in play. You can see a rotation here on the radar here around this low pressure system as we zoom into the future here. Now this also means that we have very strong vorticity max, or this spin holding a pocket aloft full of cold air mass. As you can see here, I'll go backtrack a little bit. We're seeing where the snow is still in place. This is 700 millibars height into the atmosphere here. This is really the mid-levels of the atmosphere we're looking at here. Very strong vorticity, as you can see here. We actually move higher into the atmosphere, into the upper levels. I believe, we can see it actually gets more vorticity here. It's more stacked as we get higher into the atmosphere. So very cold air aloft, very cool pocket here, as we have this dip in the jet stream right here. And this jet stream actually runs along right through the Midwest. So we're going to see this severe weather. Again, one of the components I'll get to later of why we're going to see this severe weather breakout here later today. But the low pressure and strong vorticity is also, and strong vorticity aloft is also, it's going to be a big factor in today's severe weather event. Now, this low pressure is currently stalled out in the Idaho and Montana border here in this in that area, closer to the Canadian border as well. It's actually a very significant variable here and plays a key role in today's weather event, as I just mentioned earlier, because this will be a parent driver for what's actually about to happen later this afternoon. Again, we also have that big a big dip in the jet stream, and all of its components are moving eastward as the low pressure moves, really pushing that jet stream as well along with it. So it's going to push eastward through the Rockies and right over to the plains into a region that later today will be very receptive for the development of severe weather. As you can see here, we actually have cold high pressure for southern Canada, allowing some colder air to spill into the region. Meanwhile, we have a lot of relatively moist air flowing north throughout the Gulf of Mexico. Let's look here at the relative humidity. Very moist here. Very high relative humidity percentages here, getting into the 50s, 60s, even 70s in these areas. Relatively dry over here to the east, but we can see here right along the Gulf here as you move even northward, where the severe weather is going to be playing out along Nebraska and Kansas. Relatively high. I wouldn't say too extreme, but we're still in the 50s. So really quite high relative humidity amounts. See here, very high dew points, even into the 70s in some of these areas, well above 60 degrees. This battle zone right here in this area right here is going to sharpen up during the afternoon and evening hours, and it's going to be the focal point for some development of storms later on. So now let's go later on to today and talk about what's we have transpiring at the surface here. So we have low pressure here. A dry line is going to be taking place right here along the jet stream, and a warm front in place, serving as a lifting mechanism along this dry line. So I would expect development initially we're going to take place right here in this zone. I'd say right here, right where the cursor is here. Now again, there will be enough moisture that's going to be drawn back westward into this in the presence of some stronger winds aloft. So I'll go ahead and show you that right now. Very strong winds aloft as well. It's actually surface winds. This is further aloft into the upper levels of the atmosphere. See, they're quite strong here, around 30 to 40 knots. Really as a southwesterly flow. Go back to the surface, moist surface winds. You can see complete different direction here. Really more of a southeasterly flow. Still very high here in this area, especially around this low pressure system. Around 20 knots here at the surface. This is only expected to increase significantly, especially as the squall line comes moving through. Let's go back to the Storm Prediction Center here. I believe we had really the same percentages we had with hail, a 60% chance of damaging winds here. So definitely something to watch out for. So we have the instability and strong vertical shear as well. I'll go ahead and go back to the instability tab. I believe we only touched on this briefly. What's going on with the severe weather event is going to be going on in the Northeast. This always happens. I just cannot find this tab. Sorry. Here we go. But you can see here, much higher surface CAPE amounts here, or convective available potential energy, almost reaching 4,000 here, nearly reaching 4,000. This is actually not the severe zone that we're looking at. It's actually, like I said, it's over here around Nebraska and Kansas, and this battle zone I was talking about, where the warm front and the low pressure system, where the warm front and the rising air mass is really going to all come together here into play. So right now we're seeing CAPE levels into around 2,500 here, nearly 2,600 in this area. We're getting up to 3,000 here. It's going to be more south, but really in this area along the borders here, just east of the Rockies, in the more of the plateaus here, in the plains here, central plains. Like I said, around 26,000, 25,000, so very high instability amounts. As we're going to be seeing this, like I said, we have very humid and moist air we have right now. Nothing too extreme like we're seeing along the Gulf here, but still average around this time of year. That's just one of the reasons why we have all the severe weather. It's because we have more cooler and dry air here. We have more moist and warm air here. That's why we always have this clash here along the Midwest and Central Plains, thus called Tornado Alley. But again, it's only going to be one of the factors we're seeing here. So like I said, very high instability amounts. Like I said, we have the instability, we have the strong vertical shear. So if you think about it, these storms could have robust, vigorous updrafts and rotate and last for a while. And as precisely some of the models are telling us here, this will be the place to watch for this afternoon, as I pointed out earlier. We actually go further into the radar here. We see these storms beginning to develop here all along this region. See here, they're really starting to pop up here around into later this afternoon. As you can see right here, we see this line beginning to develop. So now here's the timing of this event here, taking place in the Central Plains. I already went over what's going to happen in the Northeast and when that's going to happen. It's really going to be more of an overnight event or later afternoon into the early evening hours when we're going to see all this develop. Well, not necessarily develop, but develop here towards the coast. Or you can see that this line of storms is already going to develop here. You see this line of storms is already taking place here in across the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes region. It's only expected to move eastward really around later this afternoon. This is actually going to be more of an more earlier. It's actually going to take place really around the same time, although a little more earlier than the event taking place in the Northeast. They're really rather around the same time, actually, as you can see here. Just they're really beginning to impact nearly at the same time. So we're going to have two different systems affecting two different regions of the country simultaneously. So that's pretty cool. As you can see here, although it's going to be much more severe, much more prone to tornadoes, very large hail, and very damaging winds. More so damaging and destructive as it's going to be here in the Northeast. So back to the timing here, we move up a little here in the animation towards the early afternoon hours. See, it's really not going to be effective here until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe a bit later when we get these storms going. They're going to be severe, grow quickly, and potentially evolve into clustered thunderstorms later on, especially into eastern Nebraska and eastern Kansas. But with damaging, like I said, we also have the damaging wind threat across parts of the Central Plains, 60% chance of damaging winds, especially overnight and into tomorrow morning as well. So, like I said, really an overnight event for both of these areas we're watching right now. So I'd say we will cover both of these severe weather events that we're going to be facing today. So a very highly active day in terms of severe weather. Now, last but not least, we move on to the big cool down and what else we're facing this weekend. Now, towards the end of the week on Friday, we have that risk for isolated strong thunderstorms or two, reaching severe limits all the way towards the southern plains and in the Mississippi Valley, and then all the way up towards the Mid-Atlantic as well. So cities like Memphis, Nashville, Richmond, Paducah, you guys are all included in this risk for Friday. Now we're also gonna have those run-of-the-mill storms. You can see here it's only a marginal risk, but then again, this is Friday, so the Storm Prediction Center may actually get a better understanding of where these storms are really going to be taking place, and maybe upgrade this risk. We'll have to see. We may actually see a line here begin to form, anywhere from the Great Lakes region all the way down to the southern plains. Like I said, it's really going to be more strong here in the southern plains rather than towards the Great Lakes region. Again, for obvious reasons, it's going to be more moist air. I'm sure we're going to have high instability, but we're not really going to see that tornado threat or the threat of damaging hail. But then again, we're going to have to wait it out and see. But like I said, thunderstorms in the forecast for cities like Dallas in the morning. So we've got scattered thunderstorms in the forecast for cities like Dallas, up towards Little Rock, Arkansas, even Charleston, Kentucky, even New York City. All the way up here to New York City, you can see some of these thunderstorms, I believe. So here's what's happening. We have this frontal boundary that's going to be taking place. As you can see here on the GFS radar. You see here is the frontal boundary that we have forming, as I mentioned earlier. It's really going to be hanging around here, and it's going to become the focal point for some of that moisture that's going to move through this weekend. So some of us may be dealing with some of that rain over the weekend as well. We also just dip in the jet stream towards the south. That's what will actually give us some of that cooler air this weekend. But that warmer air really does stay in that area across southern portions of the country. So we also have scattered thunderstorms in forecast for cities like Dallas and in the morning. Even into Sunday here. Again, we have the chance for some storms across portions of the Rockies, stretching out into the plains. Dallas, you finally dry out, but we are keeping that chance for rain. Rain and thunderstorms is along the eastern seaboard on Sunday, and even into the Memorial Day. You'll notice that many of the same areas are included in this risk again. But like I said, we have a big warm up this week. A big cool down this week. Definitely not a warm up. For some areas, we may have some average temperatures, but we're mainly going to see below average temperatures here. Actually, fast forward into this weekend, really into the Memorial Day weekend. Because here we see this colder air beginning to dominate very widespread areas across the Ohio Valley, even into the upper Midwest here, just above the southern plains. Even into the Northeast, very cold temperatures, nearly 10 degrees below average in terms of Celsius. So we're gonna be experiencing very below average temperatures, mainly because of this dip we're gonna see towards the south here. I mentioned earlier, the south won't be too affected by this. Like I said, we're gonna be around average, maybe just above average here in the southeast. But really, this dip's really just gonna lay off here, just into the Midwest here, eastern Midwest, just above the Dixie Alley here. Very below average temperatures. You can see just really just pushing 10 degrees below average in a lot of these areas. I believe here in Jersey we're going to see very below average temperatures this up towards the end of the week and then this weekend. I believe we may see 57 degrees on Saturday. So it's very below average for May, late May that is. So one of the big stories this week, including the severe weather. So hope you guys enjoyed this update. I'll try to keep you guys informed on any kind of weather events that break out in the coming days here, or really in the coming weeks, I should say. I believe the next video might be a official hurricane forecast. Not just my forecast, but to supplement that, I'll also include National Hurricane Center's forecasts and various other sources. So hope that may be the next video here. But I hope you guys enjoyed this update. I'll see you in the next one.